Les Gold nearly lost everything he had when he risked everything. Although it appeared to be a straightforward operation, there were actually quite a few moving parts at the Detroit King of Pawn shop. Problems with money, employees betraying one another, and a deal that shocked the world.
Les Gold's journey into the world of pawnbroking wasn't just a career choice. It was a family tradition. Born on June 20th, 1950 in Detroit, Michigan, Les was quite literally born into the business. His grandfather was already a pawnbroker, running a local shop called Sam's Loans, situated on Michigan Avenue. The pawn shop had become something of a fixture in the community and would play a big role in shaping Les's future. Les got his start in the business at just 7 years old. It was at Sam's Loans that he made his first sale, marking the beginning of a lifelong connection to pawnbroking. The shop was more than just a family business. It was a place where Les learned valuable lessons about negotiation, human behavior, and the ever-changing nature of value. This early exposure gave him a front-row seat to how people from all walks of life interacted with money, possessions, and necessity. These experiences stayed with him and became the foundation for his later success. While most children his age were focused on schoolwork and hobbies, Les was already developing a sharp business mind. At the age of 12, he came up with a clever way to make money at school. He'd buy whole pizzas and sell the slices individually to other hungry students. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was smart, effective, and very telling of the path he would eventually take. That kind of early entrepreneurial thinking showed that Les not only understood supply and demand, but also how to create opportunity from everyday situations. In 1978, that early hustle and business sense culminated in the opening of his very own pawn shop. Les launched American Jewelry and Loan at the Green 8 Shopping Center in Oak Park, a suburb of Detroit. At the time, it was a modest beginning, and Les knew he had to put in long hours to get the shop off the ground. But his instincts were sharp, and his understanding of the trade, built on years of observation and first-hand experience, gave him an edge. The business didn't stay small for long. In 1993, American Jewelry and Loan moved to a new location on Greenfield Road, right near Detroit's 8 Mile Road, a name familiar to many thanks to the city's rich musical and cultural background. The new shop was far larger, taking up what used to be a 50,000 square foot bowling alley. It was a bold move, but one that would pay off. The business flourished in the new space, and soon it wasn't just one shop, it was the hub of a growing empire. Under Les's leadership, American Jewelry and Loan became one of the largest pawn shops in the country. At its peak, the business was serving over 1,000 customers a day. The shop wasn't only a place to get loans, it became a meeting point, a community hub, and eventually, the set for a major reality television series. But at its heart, it remained a family-run business, just like it had been when Les was a boy, learning from his grandfather. Family continued to play a vital role in the success of American Jewelry and Loan. Les married his wife Lily in 1975, and the couple built both a home and a business together. They raised 2 children, Seth and Ashley, who would later become central figures in the shop's day-to-day operations. Seth Gold, Les's son, attended the University of Michigan, where he studied business. After graduating, he joined his father at the shop and took over the marketing side of the business. Seth brought a more modern approach to how the store reached customers. He once said that if it were left up to his father, their only advertising would have been a listing in the Yellow Pages. Seth introduced digital marketing strategies, rebranded elements of the business, and worked on expanding its media presence. His influence helped position the shop as a well-recognized brand, particularly in the Detroit area. Ashley Gold Broad, Les's daughter, also brought her own expertise into the family operation. She earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from Michigan State University and went on to earn a graduate diamond certification from the Gemological Institute of America. With her training in jewelry and business, she played a key role in valuing high-end items and managing the retail side of the pawn shop. Ashley became a regular face at the counter, and over the years, an important figure in the store's success. She even took time off for maternity leave at one point, but returned to continue her role as co-owner. Together, the Gold family turned American Jewelry and Loan into more than just a successful business. It became a well-oiled operation that ran like a corporation but still kept a family-focused culture. Their different skill sets complemented each other. Les had the old-school hustle, a deep understanding of negotiation, and the kind of experience you can't teach in a classroom. Seth brought new-school ideas, energy, and digital-savvy marketing. Ashley offered professionalism, gemological expertise, and a cool-headed approach to problem-solving. The shop also managed to carve out a unique space in Detroit's business scene. Unlike traditional pawn shops that operate out of small storefronts, American Jewelry and Loan stood out for its sheer size and volume. Its location, close to the heart of Detroit and within reach of several economically diverse neighborhoods, gave it access to a wide variety of customers. Everyone from blue-collar workers to collectors to people down on their luck would walk through the shop's doors, hoping to pawn, buy, or sell something of value. What's also notable about Les's story is how he handled the business with a blend of toughness and empathy. As a pawnbroker, you see people in difficult financial situations. Les understood this and often spoke about the importance of treating customers with respect, regardless of the circumstances that brought them into the shop. This human approach helped American Jewelry and Loan build trust in the community, even when pawnbroking as an industry often carries a stigma. Les's success didn't just lie in growing a big business. It also came from maintaining strong principles in an unpredictable line of work. He placed emphasis on transparency, customer service, and understanding the emotional side of transactions. After all, for many customers, pawning something isn't just about cash. It's about making rent, buying groceries, or getting through a tough time. In a city like Detroit, which has experienced its fair share of economic downturns, Les Gold's pawn shop became a place of both opportunity and survival. It's this duality, the mix of business grit and community grounding, that helped Les and his family turn a local pawn shop into a nationally recognized brand. As the business continued to grow, Les's reputation also expanded. He became known not only as a successful entrepreneur, but also as a symbol of resilience in a tough industry. From his early days working behind the counter at his grandfather's shop to building one of the most well-known pawn businesses in America, Les Gold's story is a powerful example of generational grit, smart business, and adaptability in a changing world. The idea for a reality show centered around a pawn shop was not entirely unprecedented. However, the concept of focusing on the day-to-day operations of a large, family-run pawn shop in Detroit brought a fresh perspective. The show's premise aimed to highlight the interactions between the staff and a diverse clientele, showcasing the challenges and nuances of the pawnbroking industry. Hardcore Pawn premiered on True TV on August 16, 2010. The debut episode attracted 2 million viewers, setting a new record for the network's most-watched series premiere at the time. The show's success was attributed to its raw portrayal of the pawn business, combined with the dynamic between Les Gold, his son Seth, and daughter Ashley. The series offered viewers an inside look at the operations of American Jewelry and Loan, a 50,000-square-foot pawn shop located on Detroit's 8 Mile Road. The shop catered to a wide range of customers, from those pawning items to make ends meet to collectors seeking unique finds. The show's format typically involved customers bringing in items to pawn or sell, negotiations over value, and the occasional conflict or emotional moment. One of the distinguishing features of Hardcore Pawn was its focus on the human element of the pawn business. While other shows in the genre often emphasized the historical or monetary value of items, Hardcore Pawn delved into the personal stories of the customers. This approach resonated with viewers, as it highlighted the socio-economic realities faced by many in Detroit and similar urban areas. The dynamic between the Gold family members added another layer of interest to the show. Les, the patriarch, was known for his no-nonsense approach and deep knowledge of the pawn industry. Seth, his son, brought a modern perspective to the business, focusing on marketing and expansion. Ashley, Les's daughter, managed the jewelry department, and often found herself mediating between her father and brother. Their interactions, both professional and personal, provided a compelling narrative thread throughout the series. As the show progressed, it faced comparisons to another popular pawn-based reality show, Pawn Stars, which aired on the History Channel. While both shows centered around pawn shops, their approaches differed significantly. Pawn Stars focused more on the historical significance and appraisal of items, often featuring experts who provided detailed backgrounds on unique artifacts. In contrast, Hardcore Pawn emphasized the day-to-day challenges of running a high-volume pawn shop in a city facing economic hardships. The authenticity of Hardcore Pawn was both praised and questioned. Some critics and viewers appreciated the show's unfiltered portrayal of the pawn business, while others speculated that certain scenes were staged for dramatic effect. The producers and the Gold family maintained that the events depicted were real, though they acknowledged that the presence of cameras could influence behavior. Throughout its run, the show addressed various aspects of the pawn industry, including security concerns, customer disputes, and the ethical dilemmas faced by pawnbrokers. The show also highlighted the importance of community engagement, as the Gold family often participated in local events and charitable initiatives. The popularity of Hardcore Pawn led to the creation of spin-offs, such as Hardcore Pawn Chicago, which focused on another family-run pawn shop in Chicago. However, none of the spin-offs achieved the same level of success as the original series. Despite its initial popularity, the show concluded its run in 2015 after 9 seasons. The decision to end the series was influenced by changes in True TV's programming strategy, which shifted towards comedy-focused content. Nevertheless, the show's impact on the reality television landscape and its portrayal of the pawn industry remain noteworthy. One of the most talked-about incidents within the business involved a surprising act by Seth Gold, Les's son and co-owner of the pawn shop. At the time, the family had expanded operations by purchasing a second location in Pontiac. Though this branch was an effort to grow the business, it didn't perform as expected. Unlike the flagship store on Detroit's 8 Mile Road, the Pontiac location struggled to attract and maintain a steady stream of customers. There was internal agreement that it wasn't living up to expectations, but Les was still firmly against selling it. Seth, however, thought differently. Without consulting his father, he started exploring the idea of selling the Pontiac store. Behind Les's back, he reached out to potential buyers and began negotiating deals to offload the underperforming location. The tension came to a head when one of the prospective buyers walked into American Jewelry and Loan and introduced himself to Les. Not as a customer, but as someone interested in purchasing a store Les had no intention of selling. The confrontation that followed was intense and emotional. Les was visibly stunned and deeply hurt by what he saw as a betrayal by his own son. Tearing up the financial documents Seth had prepared, he made it clear the store was not for sale, and told Seth that he couldn't even look at him. It wasn't just a disagreement over a business decision, it was a breakdown of trust between father and son, made worse by the fact that it happened on camera. This incident showed how easily family dynamics can become complicated when personal feelings and business decisions collide. It also reminded viewers that real emotions were often at play, despite the entertainment value of the show. This wasn't the only instance where internal conflict disrupted the normal rhythm of the business. Over the years, American Jewelry and Loan had become known for some of its standout employees, and one of the most recognizable faces on the show was Rich Pyle. Rich had been with the company for over 2 decades. As the store manager, he had built strong relationships with customers and co-workers alike. He was knowledgeable, approachable, and for many viewers, one of the more grounded personalities in the cast. However, as the show gained popularity, Rich's public profile grew alongside it. Fans would come into the shop hoping to take pictures with him, and he began to enjoy the attention that came with being a familiar face on TV. But there were growing concerns that he was becoming more focused on fame than on his responsibilities at work. Some co-workers began to feel the shift in his priorities, and it led to rising tensions. He was reportedly spending more time engaging with fans than managing the staff or addressing store needs. Behind the scenes, the situation escalated. Another employee, Bobby Janiak, later described how Rich's wife started causing friction by posting hostile comments about coworkers on social media. This added to the uneasy atmosphere among staff. Eventually, Les and Seth made the tough decision to remove Rich from the team. To many viewers, his absence was abrupt and unexplained, sparking speculation about whether there was more to the story than what made it to air. Some fans believed he was let go for becoming too popular, potentially overshadowing the rest of the cast, while others thought he simply wasn't pulling his weight anymore. Whatever the truth, Rich's exit marked a major shift for the team, and it demonstrated the risks of mixing celebrity with regular work responsibilities. Security issues also made their way into the spotlight, both in front of the camera and behind it. One of the most memorable scandals involved Joe, the shop's head of security. As someone responsible for the safety of staff, customers, and merchandise, Joe was trusted with sensitive duties and had access to restricted areas of the shop. However, that trust was broken when it was discovered that he had been stealing scrap gold. The incident was serious and made worse by the fact that it was caught on camera and featured in one of the episodes. The theft was a blow to the shop's internal morale, especially considering how tight-knit the staff claimed to be. Joe had worked closely with Les and the team for a long time, and his betrayal felt personal. After his dismissal, a new head of security, Byron, was brought in to help clean up the department and restore a sense of order. It was a reminder that no matter how well a team seems to function, there are always risks when trust is broken from the inside. Despite these challenges, the shop continued to operate with high customer traffic and consistent business, but the toll of internal conflict was evident. Running a family business is already a delicate balancing act, and adding the stress of a nationally broadcast TV show only intensified everything. Viewers saw a fraction of what happened each day, but for those working behind the scenes, every decision, from who got hired or fired to how disagreements played out, carried real-world consequences. Over time, the Gold family found ways to recover from these setbacks. Les and Seth eventually reconciled after the Pontiac dispute, but the incident left its mark. Trust had been tested, and rebuilding that trust took time and effort. Meanwhile, the departure of Rich created a vacuum in management that others, including Bobby, would gradually fill. Bobby became more prominent on the show and within the shop, but he too acknowledged that the environment was always high pressure and could be unpredictable. Reflecting on his time at the store, Bobby once explained that even though there were fights, drama, and emotional moments, the staff often came back together. He referred to them as a family inside those four walls, not always perfect, but bonded by shared experiences. That sense of loyalty and camaraderie was tested repeatedly, yet it remained a central theme of how the Golds operated. They weren't just running a business. They were managing relationships, emotions, and legacies. In the end, the show offered a raw and sometimes uncomfortable look into how difficult it can be to mix business and family. It wasn't all about unusual items or high-stakes negotiations. Some of the most impactful moments happened when trust was shaken, or when longtime employees disappointed those who had believed in them. These challenges weren't scripted. They were the natural byproduct of operating under the pressure of success, visibility, and human imperfection. While hardcore pawn was often promoted for its chaotic scenes and heated customer confrontations, many of the most revealing moments came from within the staff's own struggles. Whether it was a son trying to make a bold decision without his father's input, a manager succumbing to the distractions of fame, or a security guard betraying the very people he was meant to protect, each incident offered a glimpse into the complexities of keeping a business and a family together. These behind-the-scenes issues didn't define the Golds, but they certainly shaped them. As the business continued to adapt and evolve, so did the people who kept it running. The drama was real, the emotions were genuine, and the lessons were hard-earned. For Les Gold, Seth, and Ashley, every challenge was both a test and a chance to grow stronger, even when the cameras stopped rolling. After years of building a successful pawn empire, and starring in one of reality television's most recognizable shows, Les Gold didn't fade into the background. Instead, he transitioned into the next phase of his career with a steady focus on philanthropy, entrepreneurship, and personal legacy. While hardcore pawn might have wrapped up, the influence of Les Gold and his family extended well beyond the small screen. By the time the show ended, Les had already secured a solid financial foundation. Estimates put his net worth at around $5 million, a sum accumulated through years of consistent business growth, TV earnings, and additional ventures. But financial success wasn't the only marker of Les's post-TV life. In fact, what made his later years stand out was his continued dedication to the city of Detroit, where his business roots were planted decades earlier. Detroit had always been central to Les Gold's story. From the early days of selling pizza slices as a boy to managing the largest pawn shop in the city, Les always saw the city as more than just a business hub. It was home, and he believed in giving back to the community that had given him so much. Even as American Jewelry and Loan expanded and attracted national attention, Les made sure it remained grounded in local values. A significant example of this commitment was his long-standing involvement with charitable organizations, particularly those focused on supporting struggling families. One such effort included helping families with their heating and utility bills. Winters in Michigan are notoriously cold, and many people in the Detroit area face real challenges staying warm. Les didn't just talk about helping, he took action, raising tens of thousands of dollars through events hosted at his own pawn shop. These fundraisers weren't flashy red carpet galas. They were community-driven efforts held right in the store where he built his career, showing how serious he was about using his platform for good. Les also turned his attention toward mentorship and entrepreneurship. He understood that success doesn't happen in isolation. He'd had mentors, his grandfather being one of the most influential. So it made sense that later in life, he'd look for ways to pass along his knowledge to the next generation. He teamed up with organizations to support young entrepreneurs and high school students interested in business. These efforts weren't just limited to speaking engagements or guest appearances. Les worked with programs that gave real support, including funding, to students with viable business ideas. The idea was simple: show young people that success is possible, but it takes work, consistency, and smart decision-making. He helped launch a program that provided microloans to students, encouraging them to pitch their ideas in a real-life setting, similar to what you'd see on shows like Shark Tank. Except this wasn't television. This was happening in Detroit, and Les was one of the people sitting on the panel, listening to young minds dream big. While giving back to his community was a top priority, Les never fully stepped away from business. He remained active behind the scenes, supporting American Jewelry and Loan's day-to-day operations, even if he wasn't in front of the cameras anymore. The shop, which had become a household name thanks to the show, continued to thrive and attract loyal customers. Long after the series ended, people still visited the store not only to pawn or purchase items, but also in the hope of spotting a member of the Gold family. Another part of Les's legacy was his book. Titled For What It's Worth, Business Wisdom from a Pawnbroker, the book was more than a memoir. It was a guide. In it, he broke down his business philosophy and shared practical advice for those navigating tough decisions. The book's tone was candid and no nonsense, just like Les himself. It wasn't filled with fluff or overly technical jargon. Instead, it focused on the basics. Know your customer, know your product, and always be ready to negotiate. The book resonated with a lot of readers, especially small business owners and entrepreneurs trying to make it in competitive markets. It didn't promise quick success or magic tricks. It offered grounded, experience-based lessons that came from decades in a business that deals directly with the public every single day. The book also touched on emotional intelligence, something Les believed was crucial in business. In a pawn shop, he'd often said, "You see people at their best and worst, and the ability to connect with them, even when they're desperate or upset, was key to doing the job well." Despite all this positive momentum, in 2023, a strange and disturbing rumor began circulating online, claims that Les Gold had passed away. The rumor seemed to have originated from a TikTok video that used edited photos and falsely stated that he had died. The claim spread quickly across social media platforms, with fans and former viewers expressing shock and grief. For a short period, there was confusion and real concern. Thankfully, it didn't take long for the truth to come out. Les's son, Seth, responded directly by posting a short video alongside his father. The video was simple and to the point. Les stood beside Seth and looked into the camera, confirming that he was alive and well. He thanked everyone for their concern and took the false rumors in stride, even managing to throw in a bit of humor about the situation. It was a strange episode, but it served as another reminder of how deeply he remained in the public consciousness, even years after his last televised appearance. The rumor incident also showed how connected the Gold family still was with their audience. Instead of letting a press release or an article clear things up, they chose to go directly to the public. It showed that, at their core, they still valued the people who had followed their journey over the years. Through all of this, Les never sought celebrity for the sake of fame. The TV show may have introduced him to millions, but what kept him going was always the work. It was the human connection, the stories behind the items brought into the shop, the negotiations, the wins and losses. That's what made him relatable to so many people, the fact that he never lost sight of what mattered. The end of Hardcore Pawn didn't mark the end of Les Gold's impact. If anything, it offered a chance to see who he was without the edits, drama, and production schedule. And what emerged was someone deeply committed to his family, his city, and his core values. Whether through helping local families heat their homes, supporting young entrepreneurs, or simply continuing to run his shop with integrity, Les stayed true to himself. His story is about more than reality TV or business success. It's about resilience, adaptability, and a strong sense of community. It's about recognizing that even as the spotlight fades, the work, the real, meaningful work, continues. Les Gold didn't just build a business. He built a lasting example of what it looks like to blend hustle with heart.